Just about every weeknight, I watch Jeopardy at 7 o'clock. I love challenging myself to see how many questions I can answer. And I always learn something new by listening to the answers of the questions I don't know. Every once in a while, though, I be like, how come it ain't never no black people on Jeopardy? Thanks for watching. Do me a favor, hit that like and subscribe button for me. I told you when we started the B-Boy Stands YouTube channel, we talk about a wide variety of subjects. This is an example of that. It's funny because I'm usually not even thinking about race when I'm watching Jeopardy. It ain't until they ask a quote-unquote black question that nobody knows the answer to that I start laughing and I ask myself, how come it ain't no black people on Jeopardy? Is there a correlation between the fact that the mostly white male contestants don't know any of the answers about black culture and how there are hardly any black contestants on the show? Now, believe it or not, this ain't the first time this subject has been brought up. Back in 1995, Maya Angelou asked the same question out loud in an article, and she was so upset with the lack of black that she planned a personal boycott of the show Jeopardy. The late Alex Trebek heard about what Maya Angelou said, and he was very upset and offended. Alex said they've been trying for years to get black people to come out and try out for the show, which really consists of answering 50 questions, but they just don't want to. Alex said they set up booths at NAACP conventions, they put ads in black newspapers trying to attract more black contestants, but it didn't work. He said they include questions about black culture and music and history and sports as a way to try and compensate for the lack of black contestants. Ain't that wild? I love Jeopardy. I consider myself an intellectual. I love learning shit. And I ain't the only one. You'd be surprised how many niggas like Jeopardy. I never forget one time I was in a bar years ago around my way and Jeopardy came on. First off, ain't nobody asked for the channel to be changed. Like niggas really wanted to watch Jeopardy. Secondly, I was shocked to see how much some of these old drunks knew. I'm talking about 18th century literature, chemistry questions, hard questions. So the question remains, why don't we go on the show more often? I don't think that the producers are biased or anything like that. I truly believe that these are the leftovers of the things that we as a people been through. See, this is what happens when your formal education ain't stressed and you've been in survival mode for the last 200 years. See, black people, we got a funny history with education in America. You know what I mean? Think about it. When our ancestors were kidnapped and dragged here as slaves, we were forbidden to learn to read and write. Like that shit was punishable by death. That's because the white slave master knew that knowledge is power, and he wanted the slave to be as weak mentally as possible. Now, after we got quote unquote free and started migrating up north and out west, education still wasn't stressed as much as getting a job and earning a living. Like they learned how to read and write and do math just good enough to survive. They had schools, but they was underfunded and not as good as the white schools. It wasn't the same quality education. Now, that same concept continued on into the 50s, into the 60s, into the 70s, and so on. Underfunded schools with less than quality education, and we as a community, we just accepted it. Like my own father, he told me his mother, my grandmother, didn't expect him to go past 10th grade. She thought he would stop going to school and get a job because that's what everybody else did back then. No one forced him to stop going. It's just that formal education wasn't stressed. It wasn't as important as getting a job and earning money. So we can dispel that myth right here. It's not that black people are inherently dumb or naturally stupid. Historically, we were deprived from a good education for so long that we as a people eventually turned our backs on education. Some of y'all keep thinking this shit is ancient history, but do the math, man. Slavery just ended in the late 1800s, less than 150 years ago. That's only 7 generations ago. You understand that cultural change can take up to 1,000 years to happen. So here we are, in 2024. We still hear black students today say stuff like, I'm the first person ever to go to college in my family. Or, I'm the first person to ever graduate college in my family. In 2024. Meanwhile, white families en masse are on their third, fourth, fifth generation of college graduates. So it ain't Jeopardy's fault that we ain't on there more representing. Maybe we're intimidated to even try out for the show. I know some days when I'm watching, I might only get a few questions right myself, so I get it. But see, science, chemistry, astronomy, geology, biology, whatever, they don't have nothing to do with race. The fact that those subjects aren't taught or touched on in black schools, that's where the racism comes in. See, for many white students, they start learning about those subjects in high school because their high schools are better funded and they're preparing them for higher education. You know what I mean? That's where they start learning the answers to those questions that you only use if you're in that field or if you're on the show Jeopardy. A lot of black schools, they babysit them for a few years, pacify the kids with basic information, and prepare them for work at a factory or in retail. In addition to being mostly white though, Jeopardy contestants are mostly men. Does that say something about women and intellect? I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I tell you what though, they better not dumb down the show trying to attract black people. I would be so insulted. I'd rather we step our intellectual game up rather than for them to dumb theirs down. And the irony definitely ain't lost on me when a white contestant on Jeopardy knows the hypotenuse of the angular periodic element of the particle of the atom, blah, blah, blah. But he don't know who started Motown, or he never heard of Conte Cullen before. It's hilarious. In Philly, right after Jeopardy goes off, Wheel of Fortune comes on. And sometimes I be feeling like these shows are a microcosm of our society. Like, after the dizzying display of extraordinary intellectual prowess of Jeopardy, you get the simplicity of guessing letters and words with Pat Sajak on Wheel of Fortune, where another common aspect of my people gets the spotlight. Like the white male and the female contestants on Wheel of Fortune, they're usually married with children, and they do the intros, and it's like, "Hi Pat, I'm Lewis. I've been married to my wonderful wife Melissa for 12 years. We have 3 kids, Dylan, Adam, and Jeffrey, etc." Then I hold my breath as the camera pans down to Shanae from Oakland, California, and she be like, "I want to say hey to my 4 kids, Jamariquan, Dontavius, Lakeisha, and Modesty." And Modesty spelled Modusty. No mention of no man, no husband, just all kids, eyelashes, and fingernails. My people.